right, according to my clock here, it is 9 o'clock. Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. Welcome to our Fridays with Fiscal session. This morning, we are going to talk about the digital delivery of W-2s. So hopefully everybody is seeing my screen. You should be seeing like our wiki page where our documentation is. Is everybody seeing that? Perfect. Thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and admit a couple more people here. Get started. What we did was we put together a W-2 digital delivery checklist. So that is what we're going to be covering this morning. I'm going to tag team this with Michelle. So between the two of us, we're going to cover things on the payroll side and then also on the ESS side of things. So we're going to be passing the mic back and forth a couple times here this morning. But again, we put together this document, this checklist, and you can find that under the appendix option on the USPS side. If you go to the appendix, you're going to click the checklist option, and then you'll see at the very bottom, these should be in alphabetical order. There is a W-2 digital delivery checklist. So we're going to cover these steps, kind of what needs to happen first on the payroll side, and then we'll switch gears and talk about the ESS side of things. So, just to point out, I think this has been asked, numerous times, but just to reiterate that in order for digital delivery of W-2s to happen, the district does need to be using ESS. So those two are, tied hand in hand. Again, when we talk about this option, employees are still going to be able to view their W-2 in ESS just like they always have in the kiosk. This is just pertaining to those employees that only want to be able to view their W-2 digitally in ESS. So what we mean is they will no longer be receiving a hard paper copy of their W-2. So they'll still be all the employees will still be able to access their W-2 in ESS. Those that opt into receiving their W-2 digitally will not receive that paper copy. So those are the employees that we're talking about, and we're going to go through those steps as far as what needs to be set up. It's not a intense process by any means, but we're going to cover those steps to hopefully help step you through then helping your districts get that put in place if that's what they choose to do. So, according to the IRS, employees have the option to opt into this, receiving their W-2 electronically. So they have to sign a consent form, and we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. But, if there are any questions regarding, the IRS rules, their explanation as far as what needs to happen in order for employees to receive their W-2 electronically, we've provided a link here to the publication, the IRS publication that kind of outlines then what needs to happen in order for an employee to truly receive their W-2 digitally and not receive that hard copy. So again, just in the very beginning of, this checklist, it just kind of outlines, explains, that they do have to consent to that and those steps that the IRS has put in place to implement that. Now we're going to talk about what needs to happen on the payroll side. So first, there's a configuration checkbox. And that can be found if you go to System, Configuration, under the W-2 configuration. There's a new option called Enable W-2 Digital Delivery. So that then needs to be checked. And then you're obviously going to save that change. And then there's multiple things that happen then when that box is checked. But this is the very first thing, the very first, step in the process to make all this happen. So if I go to, on the USPS side, if I go to System Configuration, whoops, of course my session timed out here. If I go down to W-2 configuration, this is the box then that new checkbox that was put in place to enable W-2 digital delivery. So this kind of sets things up district-wide. So if I have this box checked, certain fields and items are going to be available district-wide. If I have this box unchecked, then those special fields and things we see in reports and so forth that we're going to talk about here in a little bit, districts will not see. So there is a difference, with having this checked and unchecked. And we've kind of spelled this out here in this blue highlighted area. So if that box is marked, then again, there's certain things that are going to happen or that users are going to see in various places of the application. And one is on the employee record. So if I go to an employee record, now that I have that box checked, and I just view an employee's record, if I scroll all the way down to the bottom here, I'll make this a little bigger so you can see it. There are there's a section called W-2 Digital Delivery, and there are two fields then that appear when that box is checked. The digital only W-2 checkbox, and then the digital W-2 agreement timestamp. So Michelle's going to go through next the steps that need to happen on the ESS side. But again, these two fields are populated when that configuration checkbox is marked. And then on the ESS side, once the employee consents and does things, goes through the steps that are necessary on the ESS side, these fields then get updated and populated based on, the steps that they've taken on the ESS side. So those two fields on the employee record will appear when that box is checked. And then also under the More option, if I scroll down, there's the W-2 digital delivery option, and then those two fields that we just talked about are also made available then on the grid. So if users want to add those to the grid and take a look at those, they are able to do so. So that digital only W-2 field can be added to the grid, and the digital W-2 agreement timestamp can be added to the grid. Okay, go back to the checklist then. So that's the employee record. So those are the fields that will appear on the employee record. When it comes to the W-2 reports, the W-2 report and submission, all output types have the option to sort by digital only W-2. So if I go to W-2 reports and I go to W-2 report and submission, you can see the sort option, that digital only W-2 sort option is available. So If I go down to forms, and we'll talk about these in a little more depth when it comes to the sorting side of things and what happens when we choose that digital only W-2 option as a sort option a little bit later, but you can see all of those are available. Okay. All right. Lastly, then, there's a count on the W-2 report itself. So you can see that there are new counts available based on the total number of employees, the total number of W-2 forms, the physical W-2 forms to be printed, and then the digital delivery of W-2s. So super helpful. If I run my W-2 report, I now have, hopefully everybody can see that. I'll make it a little bit bigger. I now have those counts available of the total number of employees. We've now added the total number of W-2 forms that will be printed. So again, if employees have multiple cities, then they're going to have more than one W-2 printed. So we've now included that count as well. The physical forms that should be printed, and then those that are receiving their W-2 digitally. So they would not have a physical form printed. So, you know, the physical form count plus the digital form count or digital W-2 delivery count should equal the total number of W-2 forms. Okay, I know, you know, in prior years, this was not, it was a little, those counts were a little deceiving because, you know, when you submitted your forms to the printer, and any of those employees that had multiple cities, the count was actually counting the number of employees versus the form. So those weren't accurate. Now, you know, what you submit to the printer for printing should match this physical W-2 form count. So hopefully that will help when it gets to the printing side of things. So when, you know, if a district opts, you know, out of the digital delivery of W-2s, and that configuration box is not marked. So if I go, oops, that W-2 configuration option and I uncheck this box, then we're going to see a difference. So those fields on the employee record that we talked about, those new W-2 digital delivery fields, if I scroll all the way down to the bottom, you can see that those are not available on that employee record. If I go to the more option, I'm not going to see that W-2 digital delivery, those two special fields available for me to add to the grid. Okay. The other thing when it comes to the W-2 report that I just realized that I overlooked, and I apologize, is when the district is opting into digital delivery, we're going to see that also noted on the report. So this digital only W-2 option will appear, and then it will, you know whether the employee is opting into digital delivery or if they've opted out of that. If the district is opting to not deliver, you know, give the employees that option, then we will not see that field listed at all on the report. So a little difference on the report itself as far as, you know, that field being printed and or not printed. All right. The counts then are also different. You know, there's no digital delivery count. It wouldn't apply to those districts. So you can see that it just lists the total number of employees and then the total number of W-2 forms to be printed. So we don't have those extra counts at the bottom like we saw for those that are opting in to digital delivery. All right. Are there any questions on anything we've covered so far before I pass things over to Michelle? And I apologize. Okay. All right. I'm going to turn things over to Michelle and she can talk about the setup side when it comes to the ESS.
Thank you. Okay, can everyone see my screen okay here? I'm in the area where I'm going to talk about the checklist steps for ESS here. I'm going to pull up my chat here. Just so I can see that while I'm going along here. Okay, good morning, everybody, and happy Friday. So what I'm going to get into is the ESS steps here, steps 2 through 6, on how the district would configure the W-2 digital delivery in ESS, as well as how an employee then goes in and consents for it. So step 2 is where either admin or district manager would need to go into the system configuration, W-2 configuration, and enable the allowed digital only W-2 checkbox. And so I'm going to take you in there so you can see what it looks like. So I'm logged in as admin and I go to configuration. I'm going to the W-2 configuration. Now, obviously, I'm just going to back up a sec here. Underneath the ESS functionality, they do have to make sure that the W-2 wage and tax statements and stuff is enabled as well. So anyone can see their W-2. But in order for the digital delivery, I'm going down to the W-2 configuration option. And in here is where you're enabling them to allow digital only W-2. So that has to be checkmarked. And then also you're going to see a legal notification on acknowledgement view. And so this is basically what they are going to be consenting to. And they will see this when they go into their user profile and complete the W-2 acknowledgement. They will see this information. So this is the default information. Now, if the district wants to tweak this, maybe add a couple things, then they can go in and edit this by just clicking on edit and allow you to go in and make changes to this text box. So once that's done, you would save the changes, and then whatever's listed in here is what they're going to see, each user, when they go in and click on the W-2 acknowledgement area in their user profile. So if I do make changes and I want to go back to reset to the default verbiage, then I can just click on reset to default and it will go back to this. So, this can be edited if needed before users start going in and opting in for W-2 digital delivery. So once this is enabled, then I'm going to go back to the checklist here. That's the only setup step for the district to do. The rest of the steps here are what the users will need to do to consent to digital delivery. So what's going to happen, I'll just review these first and then I'll go in and show them to you. And so they're going to log into ESS, and down at the bottom left-hand corner where they see their name, they're going to click on that, and they're going to click on the profile option in there. So if that your districts have users that really haven't been in the user profile, really haven't needed to, this is something that they're going to have to do if they want to opt in for W-2 digital delivery. So in the user profile, there is a W-2 acknowledgement area. And in there, it's going to display that legal notification I just showed you. And it will also list the required tools needed to access their W-2. You need Adobe, you need a PDF reader, and just stuff like that, just to let them know that they need those tools. They need internet access, stuff like that, in order to view their information. And then what they're going to do is they're going to, read over that and then enter in a digital signature, today's date, and select to consent to receiving the digital only W-2 and submit that. And then there's a print acknowledgement button also that gets enabled after they submit, that they can then print off, excuse me, a copy of their acknowledgement in a PDF format. So I'm going to take you into those steps now. And so back in ESS, I'm going to log out of the admin account and I'm going to log in as a user. Excuse me. And in here then, like I said, Betty is going to have to go down to the user profile here area. So she's going to click on profile. And then here's her user profile information. And so because the district already configured the W-2 digital delivery, she is now going to see this W-2 acknowledgement button. So when I click on that, then I'm going to get this information here. And again, this is the information that appears about the acknowledgement that the district could edit if they would need to. Betty's going to read through this, see what needs to be done in order to see your W-2 in ESS. And then from here, she is going to enter in her digital signature. And you'll notice we have a nice little tooltip here to tell her what she needs to enter in. So she needs to enter in her full legal name. So I'm just going to enter that in as it appears. And then click over to today's date. And easy, date picker already appears here. So I'm just going to pick on today's date. And if you try to put in a date prior or after, it's not going to let you. It has to be today's date. And then here is where she has her decision. Do I want to consent? Or let's say she did consent, she's changed her mind and she wants to revoke. There is an option to revoke consent as well. But she wants to opt in for this. And then once I have those three fields entered in, I click on submit. And I will get a little pop-up, which I'm sorry is hidden by our LastPass, but there was a little pop-up notification saying that she successfully submitted. And she's good to go now with this. Now, another thing that she can do is now that she submitted, she can print on the acknowledgement and she's going to get a downloaded file, a PDF file of the acknowledgement. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. Click on save. And here is what the acknowledgement looks like here. So it's basically, you guys can see that. It basically has the information that was on the acknowledgement area and then her digital signature, her decision, and then the date. So do consent to receive my W-2 in only a digital format. So she can keep that on file. And it just, shows proof that she did do the actual consent to opt in. Okay, I'm going to exit out of that. Guys, back to this main menu here. So do you have any questions regarding the ESS side? Okay, I'm going to go back to our checklist here. So, like Lori said in the beginning, these steps here are basically the steps to implement the W-2 digital delivery. What we also then added at the end of this is probable or possible questions that are going to be asked once it's set up or during setup. And so we wanted to be a little proactive and try to get these questions out there ahead of time. We also plan on doing a feature article on the W-2 digital delivery in our October newsletter. And all of this information will be linked, and probably these frequently asked questions will be in the actual newsletter. So I think it's somebody there. So yeah, so we wanted to talk through these with you so that we can discuss, what happens now after you've done the initial setup. So, the first thing is when an employee signs the W-2 acknowledgement, what are they exactly consenting to? And that's in that legal notification. And these are the things that, Lori had discussed earlier. They're not going to receive a paper copy of their W-2. And they will be notified by email when the W-2 is available. So we'll talk about that in a little bit here. They can access their W-2 securely through the ESS system at any time. They can withdraw to consent within ESS. And I just showed you in the user profile where they can do that. And this consent remains in effect for future tax years unless you revoke it. So if they set it up to consent and they don't touch it, they will get their W-2 sent to them digitally until they change their minds if they want to revoke it. And then down here, it just talks about what's needed in order to see that. And then I just have a little, note here that the district can go in and customize this if they need to. Okay, any questions in regard to this first FAQ? Okay, moving along here. I'm going to cover the next one as well here. And like I said, where this is at, again, just in case you guys were like, where was that at? And how to make those changes. If I log out of Betty and log back in as admin, I go down to system, configuration, and W-2 configuration. This is where that text is at. That can be changed if needed. And this is what the user is going to see in their profile record when they're ready to review and submit their consent. Okay. The next one. Does the supervisor or district office receive an email notification that an employee consented to digital delivery? We don't have that set up at this time. We do have a feedback issue, and I think I've got the feedback issue number here. It's ESS feedback 249. So we do have an issue out there. Someone had requested it. But one thing that admin or district manager roles can do is we also have, once that W-2 configuration is enabled, there will also be a District 2 acknowledgement view that allows those roles to view employees who have consented to W-2 digital delivery. So I'm going to show you where that's at. So if I go back in here, I'm going to see the District 2 acknowledgement. And when I click on that, it takes me to this grid. I don't think there's any way you can add or remove columns in here. I think these are just the only columns we have available. But you'll notice it has the employee's full name. And then we have a digital W-2 consent. So again, these are my test files. So I've only added a handful of people into ESS. So I don't see all the USPS, employees in here because I haven't added them all in my test instance. But they would all be in here if they did register for ESS and they've already been using it. But you'll see here, if they do consent, the digital W-2 consent will reflect a true in here. And then it will also show the timestamp that they consented to W-2 digital delivery. So you'll see that as well. So if I wanted to filter that out and just see the ones that actually did consent, I can do that. If I want to, look at the ones that did not, I can select false. And these are the people that are still going to receive a paper copy. So it does give those roles, kind of an idea of who has consented so far to W-2 digital delivery. Any questions on that? Okay. I'm going to move back to the next FAQ. Should our district establish a cutoff date for employees to consent to digital delivery? We strongly recommend that they do. I think the district should communicate to the employees in advance that, during this either a cutoff date or a time period where the employees will not be able to either consent or revoke their our digital W-2 delivery. And this, is just ensure sufficient time for the treasurer's office to get everything ready for their W-2 printing and preparation. So yes, I highly recommend that they have some kind of cutoff or a time frame that you can't access the W-2 acknowledgement area in ESS during this time frame. So they need to, get that set up before that gets turned off temporarily. So to disable that, we just have notes here on how they would do that. So basically, you're just going back into the W-2 configuration. So the admin or district manager would do that, and they would go in and edit it, obviously, and then uncheck the allow digital only W-2 and save that. And then what happens then if a user logs into their user profile, they will no longer see that W-2 acknowledgement button. It will be basically removed. Then once they get through the W-2 processing period, the admin or district manager role can go back into the W-2 configuration and they can re-enable that again so that users have the ability to go in and consent, or if they want to revoke the W-2 digital delivery. Okay. Moving on to the next one. When an employee consents to receiving, I think this might be Lori. So I'm going to turn this over to her. I know we were tag teaming this. So Lori, I don't know if you want to share your screen again or if you were just going to walk through these steps listed on here.
I'll go ahead and share if that's okay.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Okay, hopefully everybody's seeing this, the checklist here. So number 4, as Michelle mentioned, on the USPS side, what happens when, an employee consents to receiving their W-2 digitally? A lot of these, steps we kind of talked about earlier. But again, we kind of wanted to put those in a question format for your users. So again, just to kind of reiterate what we talked about, when they consent, they're not going to receive a physical, copy of their W-2. And then when you, set that configuration to enable W-2 digital delivery on the W-2 report itself, as we pointed out or showed earlier, those employees will be noted on the W-2 report as, yes or no, that they are receiving or they're not receiving their W-2 digitally. Those counts will be listed at the bottom of the report. These employees will not be included in the forms or the XML file or the W-2 mailable forms. That's obviously the whole point of them receiving their W-2 digitally, is they're not going to receive any kind of physical printed copy. So they'll be excluded from those files altogether. These files are sorted based on the sort option that is selected when the file is generated. And we're going to talk in the next FAQ about, the sorting side of things in a little more detail. So I'm going to, move on from there, and we'll get into the sorting in just a second. The submission file will not exclude any employee. So whether they're receiving their W-2 digitally or a physical copy of their W-2, it doesn't matter. The submission file is always gonna include all the district's employees. And again, the submission file is sorted based on non-Medicare or FICA employees and then Medicare employees. So that's the same as it always has been. When it comes to the ESS side, if you'll remember, on going to the USPS calendar year-end checklist, towards the bottom, step 45, there is an option for those that use ESS to generate that file then, that gets placed in the file archive. And then, that's what, when it comes to the ESS side, what that side is using to make its connection and go out and pull all the W-2 information from. So again, they're gonna go to that, select that W-2 archive individual forms option, and then they would, submit that as a job. And then once the job is complete, then that file then is in the file archive. So if I would go to the file archive and I go to W-2 archive, once that file is created and that job is complete, then it's gonna be placed here. And then that's what, again, ESS is looking for to make those W-2s available on the ESS side of things. So if I would go log in as a user into ESS, once the payroll side has that file created and it's out there in the file archive, the employee then is able to go to the view print W-2 option, and they have the ability to view their W-2 or download a PDF and then, print that W-2 off, view it on this, whatever they need to do as far as, for their tax purposes. Okay, so that is what happens then on the ESS side of things. So again, employees are still gonna, any employee that's using ESS is still gonna be able to view their W-2 just like they always have in ESS. But those that have consented to only receiving a digital copy, again, will be able to still log into ESS, see their W-2, print their W-2. They're just not going to get a hard copy, and they will not be included on the payroll side in those files, those form files that are used or created to submit for printing purposes. Okay. All right. Let's talk a little bit more about the sorting option, because we've had a couple questions about this, and I understand it is a little confusing. As I mentioned before, when that option in W-2, the W-2 configuration is, enabled, then if I go to W-2 reports and I go to W-2 report and submission, the report has the option. Oops, I turned it off. I'm sorry. So turn that back on. All right. Now we should be good to go. So if I go again to the W-2 report and submission option, any of these options here have the sort option that says digital only W-2. But as we just talked about, like, it's really irrelevant when it comes to forms. We're still going to see that option here the XML option, we're still going to see that option here. And even when I go to the W-2 reports, whoops, and I go to the W-2 mailable forms option, if I look at the sort options here, we're going to see that digital only W-2 option available. It's really irrelevant. I think that, you know, we are going to eventually remove that option from those selections because it doesn't pertain to those particular options. But if a user does select those options, you know, for whatever reason, then, you know, don't worry. They're those employees that are receiving their W-2 digitally will not be included in any of those files. They will just default to sorting by employee name. So we have that noted here. If they would happen to choose that, then they're gonna be sorted, you know, by name, and nothing happens. I guess I kind of got out of order here. So if a district chooses or user chooses those options that I just pointed out, what does it do? Basically nothing. That option's available on all of those different options, reporting options, and it just is going to revert to sorting by name. Now, when, you know, the report option and those that are truly valid are selected by digital only W-2 sort, then again, as we pointed out, it's going to print that's, you know, digital W-2 only field on the report, and it's going to print whether that employee has opted in or out of receiving their W-2 digitally. Now, it will sort, go all the way back up to the top here, all those that have opted not to receive their W-2 digitally first. So those with no will be listed at the top, and then those that have opted in will be at the bottom. So if I scroll all the way down here to the bottom, I should see eventually those that have not opted in. Here we go. Now, if going back to the checklist here, just to kind of go into a little more detail as far as the sorting options go, and what's going to happen is, just as in the past, the report will automatically sort those non-Medicare FICA employees separately from those Medicare employees. And then the sorting is going to happen within each of those groups. So if that digital only delivery sort option is selected, you know, then it's going to sort those non-Medicare FICA employees, you know, that group, and then it'll sort the Medicare group of people based on, you know, the selection, the sort option that the user has selected. Okay. The secondary sort is employee name. So they're going to sort within, you know, that group by employee name. All right. So are there any questions when it comes to the sorting side of those options within those different reports? Again, we've had, you know, some questions on what is the digital only W-2 sort option even mean when it comes to, you know, the printing side of things, the W-2 mailable option, XML and forms. Not really relevant. So it's just if that does get selected, it's just gonna sort by employee name. All right. I am going to stop sharing and I'm gonna pass this over to Michelle to continue with some ESS questions.
Okay, the next one there in regarding to number 7, is there a way to notify employees when their digital W-2s are available to you in ESS? And good news there is, and we just added it not too long ago, is that the district manager or admin role has access to a W-2 mass email option underneath the system menu. And this will allow them then to send a mass email notification to the digital W-2 employees, just letting them know that their W-2 is available to view in ESS. And what we have, and I'm going to take you in there here in a little bit, is we have a template email that that role can fill out and save. And then when they're ready to send out the email notice, then there's a separate option for them to do that. So let me take you in there. So I'm going to go back into ESS here, and underneath system W-2 mass email, this is what those particular roles are going to see. And so I went in and created an email body. This area here, this text box will be blank. So what they'll have to do is go in and it puts them in edit mode right away. So I can just go in here and start entering information in here. And so what I've done is I typed this out, just explaining, and this is what the user is going to see in the body of their email. So it basically announces that their W-2 is ready for them to view in ESS and that they can print off a copy of it by downloading it. And then it takes them, walks them through the steps and how to log into ESS and view and or print their W-2. Also letting them know too that there is a secondary button underneath on the W-2 that allows them to see, to click and download the IRS employee notice. So that's up kind of in the top corner of the W-2 view grid. And then also a little note here about what they're going to need in order to view or download their W-2. So it's whatever the district wants to put in here. And then, I just have please contact the treasurer's office if you have any questions, something like that. So once they go in and fill this out, they're going to click on Save Email Template, and it saves what's in here. And then once they are ready to notify, they're in the W-2 process and they want to notify the W-2 digital employees that their W-2s are ready, then they can click on send emails, and it will go out there and send an email, and it's going to look at the email that's in their user record in ESS. It's going to use that email and it's going to send the email out to them. We do have this documented in our ESS user manual as well, with an example as well of what the email will look like. So you guys can refer to that for more information. But this is basically how that gets set up. So once this is set up then and they're ready, they send emails, the emails go out with this information in the body of the email. And that's probably something too that can be included in probably their USPS calendar year and checklist as well, to make note that they need to do this in ESS. Okay. The next question here, what if an employee decides to return to receiving a paper copy? What do they need to do? So, and we touched upon this a little bit earlier, but I'll just go back in and show you again what they need to do to do that. So let's say, they received their W-2 digitally in 2025, and they're like, I want to go back to a paper copy in 2026, and have the treasurer's office send me one. So if they want to do that, they need to go in and revoke their consent. So if I go back in here, I'm going to log in as Betty again. And Betty goes down to the profile record and she goes to the W-2 acknowledgement. And at this point, then what she's doing, you'll notice that these first two are grayed out. But the decision is the one that she wants to go to, and she clicks on revoke consent. And it'll pop, obviously it retains her digital signature and it pulled in today's date. And I click on submit. And again, my last pass is hiding the notification up there that it completed successfully. And at this point too, if she wants to print the updated acknowledgement, she can click on this and it will state on there in the PDF that she no longer consents, that she revoked consent. And when that happens then too, I'm going to show you what that looks like in USPS. Let me log in here. And I'm going to go over to Betty. And then I'm scrolling down to the bottom where the W-2 digital delivery is at. And you'll notice now that her digital only W-2 is unchecked. So it will go out there and remove the check mark in here and obviously update the timestamp with today's date. Today's the day that she revoked consent. So, so obviously anyone that does have, like Lori explained already, that has consented to this checkbox would be, or yeah, this box would be check marked. But since we did that and revoked it, it just goes in and automatically updates that. Andrew's got a question here. Great feature on the mass email. How quickly does the ESS push to USPS for these choices? So I mean, if you're talking about this specific one, when they do the consent or the revoke, you'll notice that it does it immediately. It updates it immediately. So it's not, I didn't have to go in and resync or do anything like that. It went in there and updated USPS right away. Okay, my mouse is giving me fits. There we go. If it, Jen's got a question here. If a district turned it off because of the cutoff date, would they need to turn it back on in order to allow someone to revoke consent? Correct, that's correct. So, when they turn that off, that acknowledgement option is gone. So if I go back to here to the user profile, this disappears when they turn that off in ESS. So in order for a person to go in and consent or revoke, that needs to be turned back on in the configuration in ESS in order for them to see this. Okay. I think I've got question 9, and then I'm going to turn it back to Lori after that. So what if an employee elects to receive their W-2 digitally, but then resigns with the district before the end of the calendar year? How will they receive their W-2? Well, that's really a decision between the district and the former employee. They need to communicate that when the district leaves as to how they will receive their W-2. I'm assuming maybe to make it easy is, if they did consent, is to revoke consent, and it would be a printed copy that gets sent to the former employee. But that really is up to the district and the employee on how they want to handle that. Okay, Lori, I'm going to turn it back over to you. I know Lori's going to talk about number 10 and just wrap things up.
Excuse me. Thank you, Michelle. We will go ahead and, as Michelle mentioned, talk about number 10, which is, can a W-2C be created and delivered digitally? So at this time, W-2 Cs are not available to be delivered digitally. Those forms are created, printed, and distributed to the employee. Just remember that employees do have the ability to view their W-2Cs in ESS now. That's a newer feature. So, we have that information in the documentation under the W-2C chapter. So, yeah, right here, I want to make sure I was on the right tab. Under the W-2C report and submission / forms, once that again is that a W-2C file is created, and it's sent to the file archive, then that is again where the connection is made, and where ESS is pulling from. So employees can access those in ESS if they would like to see them that way. So they're not opting, into anything as far as, digitally seeing those. They would just log into their ESS account and then be able to see those W-2Cs there. Okay. All right. Are there any questions about anything we've covered thus far as the setup side of things and any of the questions, answers that we've discussed? I don't see anything in the chat. I did want to point out that on the payroll calendar year end checklist, we have added, kind of updated a few things. And one being, sorry for the scrolling here. When it comes to basically working with creating those W-2 files, generating the reports, all the W-2 processing itself, we did put a disclaimer on the checklist. So if you're using something, a checklist, you've created something on your own, and not using state softwares, obviously that's totally fine, but you might want to, uh, add something to your own checklist. When it comes to turning off or disabling that, those W-2 digital features, or just remind, the staff that they need to, not be making any changes during this particular window of time when the treasurer's office is working on W-2 processing. Because as we've, talked about this morning, if employees are going in and making changes and the treasurer's office is creating those files, in the meantime, because of the timing of things, that could get a little messy. And we don't want, districts to, come into problems with their print files versus what, employees are expecting. So again, just they need to kind of put a plan in place to, stop employees from making those changes for that short window of time, or disable the option altogether, whatever works for them. But again, just to kind of, put a disclaimer, in your checklist so that that doesn't get overlooked. And then the other change, and I did want to bring this to your attention, is I have a Word document here that I'm going to bring over that kind of outlines the step that used to be in place on the checklist, and that was to create the print file for your employer copies. So this would be a file containing everybody. So because that is no longer the case, those employees that opt into receiving their W-2 digitally, they're going to be omitted from all of those print files altogether. So, in the past, we would say if districts wanted an employer copy, they would use the forms option in W-2 report and submission, and then sort it however worked for them, maybe alphabetically. The districts would print that off maybe on blank paper, and then they would store that for future purposes. This file is no longer going to contain all their employees. So, that's not going to be something that they're going to want to use for this purpose. I don't know how many districts still print off a full, file like they used to, because they will still have access to view and print in the file archive. So, that file that's out in the file archive under W-2 archive, this will contain everybody. The unfortunate part is that there's not like a print all option. So they would be just printing, in select W-2s, which obviously that's not ideal. If you want a complete set of, everybody that received a W-2. So I know that when we discussed this week with the development team, there may be like some kind of override feature that's gonna become available, so that if districts did want to print that full file for whatever reason, for their records, then they would have the option to do so. But just keep in mind, at this time, that's not, available. So obviously, we have a few months till we're actually, doing processing W-2s for real, but that is, how it stands currently. I'm just curious, are districts, do you know if they're still printing that full file for their records, for like their employer copies, or do you know if districts have moved away from that? Maybe it's kind of a mute point at this time. I would welcome anybody, okay. So, okay, all right. So we probably, we will definitely, if there are districts, then we need to make that functionality available. So we will look into doing something so that they can get that full file. Yeah, so the other option, as Marcia mentioned, is to turn the configuration option off. That could get messy, with, districts, uh, as far as like an ITC printing, for districts versus the district printing. So, we probably need to make, something a little easier available, to be able to do that, instead of turning that on and off. But yes, that will definitely, that is a workaround, and that will definitely work. That will get you a file of all your employees. Great question. Okay. So that is everything regarding, the checklist and the calendar year end changes, the calendar year end checklist changes that we've made. And really everything that we wanted to touch upon this morning. Does anybody have any questions about anything that we've covered? All right. We'll wrap things up then with just talking about, what's upcoming. We have our next Fridays with Fiscal on September 5th, and that will be to review the our August recap, or a release recap. So we're going to cover everything that changed in the month of August. And then we will have the OETSA conference on the 18th and 19th. And, just to take you to the OETSA website, I'm sorry. We have, several sessions that SSDT is doing. We have the Ippy Dippy session. We have a session that we're sort of tag teaming with AOS and talking about the account changes. And then we have the USPS Medicare and retirement session, and we're going to focus on the pickup side of things and, getting that set up correctly. What happens if it isn't set up correctly at the appropriate time, and all the corrections that are involved with that. And ESS tips, tricks, and best practices. So those are the sessions that SSDT is going to be doing at OETSA. AOS again is going to be there to talk about the account changes. SERS is doing a session. We have an EMIS payroll session that will happen, and then Chad Carson is going to do an ARIA session, and we also have sort of an ITC touch base session sort of after the conference from 4 to 5, and this will be, obviously ITC only, and just give us a chance to kind of meet with you and talk through any questions, concerns, any of the state software happenings, so to speak. We'll get together and touch base with you there. So if you haven't done so, please, register for OETSA, and we hope to see everybody. I think that's all we have. Michelle, am I missing anything?
I don't think so.
I'm sorry,
I think
Michelle, go ahead.
we're good to go. I know you were cutting out a little bit there, Lori,
Oh.
but no, I think yeah, we're excited about the conference this year with SERS and AOS coming. And AOS doing that follow-up on the USAS, their USAS manual. That'll be good to hear. And then like Lori said, the ITC only session that we're going to have, Matt's going to head that one up, where we're just going to touch base with you guys on the applications and the future applications, and we'll discuss that as well. So we're looking forward to seeing you all, and let your districts know too. If you don't have as many that are, fiscal people at the districts, this I think is a great conference for them to learn these updates on state software, as well as some of these other updates from state agencies. Okay, well, I think that's all, right, Lori? I don't think we have anything else in regards to just just a reminder that we do have a evaluation at the end of this, so please please fill that out, and any comments or suggestions for future sessions. We're already starting to think about next year's Fridays with fiscal sessions. So if you guys have any recommendations, things you'd like to see, let us know in that evaluation form, and we'll take a look at those. So if you guys don't have any other questions, I think we're done for today. You guys have a great weekend.
Thank you.